the children's publisher Knights of is also closing down. They were known for Knights of is known for its commitment to inclusive storytelling in its winding down operations. So let's unpack what happened. So first, the facts. Knights have ceased trading on October 16th, 2025, and they're headed for liquidation, which is the UK's version of bankruptcy. And so they didn't give an official reason. So we're left to speculate. So they were founded in 2017 with a mission to amplifying underrepresented voices in children's literature, and they specialize in diverse rainbow fiction for kids 5 to 15. All right, so my take is it looks like and I just found this story right before we went live. So I wasn't able to do as deep of a dive as I did with Mango. It's probably for the best because I think too many of these deep dives in one episode is no good. But it looks like their business fundamentals were fine. I didn't see any like obvious business mistakes or even marketing mistakes. They kept their team very small and lean. They had a very strong focused brand. They had a clear editorial vision. You know what a Knights of book meant. It was a gay and diverse book for children. So why did they fail? I think in this case, it's a zeitgeist issue. Parents don't want rainbow books for their 5-year-old children. And many of the parents who did want that in 2019 don't want it anymore. Or another element of this is just demographic. So people on the left have fewer children than people on the right. In fact, the drop in the birth rate, if you break it out by political orientation, almost all of the drop in the birth rate in Western civilization is amongst people who are on the left. And the farther to the left they are, the more their birth rate has dropped. In fact, people on the far right have actually increased their birth rate over the last 30 years. It's a very fascinating chart. And so writing books for progressive parents, children's books for progressive parents to buy for their children, is a shrinking market. There's fewer of those parents. More of them are having pets than kids. And the ones who are having kids aren't having as many kids. Now, I sent this because Knights of, their website's still up. And so I sent their website to my wife, who's a big buyer of children's books. So when we got married, she already owned 50 or 100 children's books. And we now have a library that is so comprehensive, we don't go to our local library to get children's books because we like the ones we have at home better. And we have a lot, hundreds and hundreds of children's books. And so I really value her perspective on children's books because she has a very discriminating taste. And so she said, one thought I had about that publishing company, woke messaging aside, which is they were very, very woke, is simply that the focus seems to be too narrow. They're all about representation. But since that is their sole MO, they're trying to cater to a very specific audience, possibly at the expense of quality. So it just doesn't seem very practical in the long term. And I will say, targeting representation is focusing too much on you. It's like, here are what we do, when what readers care about is them. So they want what they want. They don't care necessarily about how the sausage is made. They care about whether the book is a fun book to read. Obviously, some people care about the author, but readers care far less about us as authors than we would like to think. Also, is interesting that for her, that language around representation and kind of the woke rainbow branding over everything, to her was a mark of quality. We're finding in this new zeitgeist that virtue signaling often triggers a reaction of disgust. So the feeling of disgust towards these sorts of things is rising amongst a portion of the market. Not that everyone feels it, but it is growing. And a good comparison to Knights of, it's actually a really good comparison, is the company Brave Books. So in many ways, these companies are like photo negatives of each other. They both focus on middle grade, and they both have a social mission that's motivating their publishing. The difference is the mission. So Brave Books is conservative and Christian, whereas Knights of is progressive, anti-Christian, and strangely sexually charged, particularly for a children's book publisher. And I went and I checked their authors. I couldn't find that any of their authors actually had children. None of the authors described themselves as mothers, and I don't think any of the authors were men. There may have been one or two men that published, but in my cursory glance, I couldn't find any men that wrote for them. But also, if there's no moms, in a company that's making things that they're trying to sell to moms. Right? Who buys children's books? Moms and teachers. And it did seem they did have a lot of teachers, I will say, as authors. So Brave Books is doing really well. They're the only publisher that I've heard advertise for them as a publisher, and they are doing all the things I talked about. They have a subscription plan where you can subscribe to Brave Books and get a new Brave book sent to you in the mail because a Brave book means something, and they have a very specific target audience, and they have a very strong brand, and they're doing great. They're just going gangbusters. They're making a lot of money. They're selling a lot of books, and they're selling a lot of those books directly to readers. Whereas Knights of is moving into liquidation. So there's a lot more I could say on the story, but I'm going to check the chat. So Auntie Caffeine Craft says, don't have kids, but I have over 100 kids books as well. They're so fun to read for a break from all that heavy stuff. Yes, and children's books, just the art. One of the things that really drew my wife, she's a bit of a artist, and she really cares about the art style of the books. And so Eloise Wilkin, we have maybe getting close to every book Eloise Wilkin ever illustrated. And Richard Scarry, she really likes Richard Scarry. Their styles weren't very similar to each other, but they're both really good. She really cares for them.